Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully everyone will start to take their seats. We have an exciting panelist for our next guest here. So while everyone's taking their seats, Babson Worldwide Connect already has been an amazing display of the diversity of entrepreneurial leadership here at Babson. We've heard from a range of founders, families, investors across finance, fashion, sports, social change, and some government innovators as well. Now we're going to pivot and expand our conversation and hear from a corporate entrepreneur. This corporate entrepreneur happens to be one in the world's most valued company. I want to introduce trailblazing corporate entrepreneurial leader Judson Althoff, Executive Vice President of Microsoft's Global Commercial Business. Under his leadership, Microsoft North America achieved double-digit revenue growth in a $30 billion business and triple-digit cloud growth. Judson joined Microsoft in 2013, reporting to CEO Satya Nadella. At the same time, Satya was beginning Microsoft's transformation. He came from Oracle and EMC and recently led the largest sales and commercial transformation in corporate history. He did it overnight with immediate first quarter results. He transformed over a 50,000-person organization in 150 countries that involved a shift to customer centricity, a reorganization, a new economic model, a new compensation model, not to mention a business model shift from selling unit products to usage-based cloud computing. Judson is also a parent in the Babson community, and Nate is here, and he will be obviously offering his critique after the session this morning. Please welcome Judson. Awesome. Yeah, sit down. I'll have you sit up here.
Great. Well, good morning. All right, you all had a lot of coffee out there.
Yeah,
so
they should be
good
more
morning.
jumpy.
That's a little better.
Awesome. So Judson, you can't be anywhere in the world without reading about Microsoft, the transformation, what's been happening over the last 5 years. So before we jump in, let's set the context a little bit with what was happening when you joined, the transformation,
Sure.
and then we'll talk about the sales transformation.
Sure. Yeah, first of all, it's very humbling to be here with all of you, and I thank you for taking the time to listen a little bit to our story of transformation. And congratulations to all of you for being a part of the Babson Centennial celebration. It's a remarkable facility and a remarkable institution, and I'm proud to have my son attend here. So maybe I can kind of rewind back 6.5 years ago when I joined Microsoft to kind of set the context. For a technology company, Microsoft's actually pretty old. We're over a 40-year-old company. Not many technology companies outlast their founders as CEOs. Yep. The notion of reinvention in our industry is pretty unheard of. At the time, we had a collection of fantastic intellectual property, but we were doing a pretty terrible job of putting it into the hands of our customers in the way that they would appreciate it most. Bill Gates' original mission for the company was to put a PC on every desktop and in every household, and you could pretty well go and say, check, job done. So then what? And our industry does not at all respect tradition. It really only respects innovation. So literally my first couple of sales calls with customers at Microsoft went a little something like this. Hi, Judson, thanks for coming. But we'll be honest with you, we pretty well took this meeting out of courtesy. You all pretty well show up and count our PCs and count our servers and try to send us a bill for the same stuff and charge us more for the same old thing every year. And frankly, we don't like you very much. To which I would retort something pithy like, hi, nice to meet you too. So the reality of the situation is, we had atrophied in the very core of what we do. We had activist board members joining and trying to think about how we could milk our profits for just a little while longer to try to eke out single-digit percentage growth in the stock. And we really sat back and did a lot of reflection about who we really are as a company, and spent a lot of time actually listening to customers and listening to employees, listening to partners. What's our purpose? What's our mission? Is it really about PCs anymore at all? And sort of led us to this thesis of pivoting our entire mission statement. And our mission today is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more, because that's what we believe our potential is. We believe that we could be at our best if we actually put aside products, SKUs, pricing, and thought about how our R&D could go to work for our customers. And that became the thesis for reinventing the company. That drove us to rethink about how we build our products, all the way from our gaming institution in the households, how that actually creates learning environments through things like Minecraft and all the educational investments we make, how it reshapes the modern workplace and thinking about more open ways of delivering Microsoft experiences. Because we were in a place where we really only built technology for our own ecosystem. Today, we now write more software for iOS and Android and heterogeneous environments than any other software company on the planet, because this openness of bringing that experience to all was what we really wanted to provide. And so it was honestly a complete rethink, a rethink on the mission, a rethink on the culture, grounding ourselves in humility and in having a growth mindset, and realizing that the best days that the company could see were actually in front of us and not behind us. So big reset, Marla.
Big reset. So as you had all that change happening at once, you also had to then think about the commercial side of it. So how did you set a North Star given all of this? And then I want to talk about how you actually executed it, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you. So look, the reality of the situation is if you ground yourself in the mission I just described, this notion of empowerment, you had to rethink the entire commercial model. We had to actually study consumption economics, things that our competition were doing quite well in the market, and actually think deeply about how our customers saw the potential value of Microsoft. And so if we were going to be in this business of digitally transforming customers, we had to know a little something more about what they actually did. So investing deeply in industry focus, reshaping our go-to-market strategy around industry, going back to school, if you will, and getting more technical. As crazy as that may sound, we had atrophied even in our own skills. I had more people on staff who could come and give you a PowerPoint presentation about my products than I had that could actually answer any questions about them. So we had to make some tough decisions about letting go a lot of the sort of traditional sales overlay folks, and instead actually hire developers out into the field so that we could roll up our sleeves and write code with our customers. Investing in customer success through effectively non-billable consulting resources that could live with customers beyond the deal to make our cloud solutions come to life. All on this premise of again, consumption economics. Probably the biggest leap we took was to pivot everyone off of this notion of a system of rewards and incentives being based on what I sold to you, and changing to what you actually use from Microsoft. So today, 80% of every compensation dollar I pay out on my $90 billion business is grounded on what you use in our cloud platform, what you use in our cloud services, and not what we sell to you. So it's this complete mindset shift that had to change. Yep. But really sort of the essence of it being build the go-to-market model around the strategy and culture of the company and put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. So you know, very often entrepreneurs and even corporate entrepreneurs are told the conventional wisdom of, well, let's get going quickly, right? Let's pilot something, let's see how it works, prove it out, pivot, and move forward. This is a fantastic opportunity of exactly the opposite. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the planning, because what Judson did, which was remarkable, is pretty much flip the switch overnight and then achieve those immediate first quarter results. So talk a little bit about the intensity of that planning and why you made that decision.
Yeah, so again, if I can kind of ground everybody a little bit in what we were going through at the time, you know, when you have an activist investor on the board, you know, you can't exactly call up Wall Street and say, hey, could you all give us a break for a quarter or two? We're going to make some changes around here, and trust us, everything will be fine. You know, so this notion of, you know, changing the engines on the airplane while you're flying it like that's what we were living. There was no pulling back from growing our legacy business and our entire portfolio of revenue at reasonable double-digit rates while growing our cloud business at triple-digit rates. And so the need to do it with some immediacy was super high. And Marla, you said we sort of light switch it, and I appreciate the compliment. In the engine room, it looked a little more something like this. We sat back as a leadership team, and we had a pretty good thesis for all of the pillars of change that we needed to take on. And we literally stopped ourselves short of saying, hey, great, let's send out a memo, like here's the new roles and jobs we're going to go implement, ready, set, go. And we actually took a solid 11 months of work back planning, sort of in the cone of silence of building out the plan. And the mantra for all of this was the old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So painstakingly, we brought in 70 vice presidents from around the world across different lines of business. We did design thinking around the very principles I talked to you about earlier, the industry thesis, the deep technology, co-development, co-innovation thesis, the customer success and consumption economics thesis, digital selling and scale, how could we use even our own technology to create more efficient and effective reach, and the commercial partner model that we put in place where we could actually take industry solutions that run on our platform and help our customers take them to market and reinvent themselves. We spent a good, hard quarter of design thinking with those 70 VPs. We took the next quarter and brought 400 VPs into the engine room. And then the final quarter before launch, we brought 3,000 managers across the company from around the world into the same session so that when we launched the thing, it wasn't Judson's big idea. It was Microsoft's commercial model. And we did, in fact, implement more change than the company had ever seen. And 2 fiscal years now, knock on wood, into that model, we've produced better financial results than the company has ever seen. But I credit it all, honestly, to the people, to the people who leaned into that collaborative notion of creating a company strategy and the collaborative fabric that was built in the process, and really everyone taking ownership over the situation rather than, look, everybody could have apathetically stood back and said, hey, look, things at Microsoft aren't really all that bad. Do we really need to change? This guy's crazy. Let's not do what he said. But that investment, that 11 months of pre-planning and change management in advance was what allowed us to, from the public eye, flip the switch and go. And as much as every day of that 11 months was incredibly painful for me, it was the best time spent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when we think about entrepreneurship, we also think about a learning culture and curiosity.
Yeah.
And one of the pivots that Microsoft has made was from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all culture. How has that been developed, and how did you take advantage of that in your transformation?
Yeah, so it's great to call out the culture, and to do this whole transformation justice, we could and should have spent an entire day on culture, because I credit a lot of the foundation of the culture itself to how we were able to make the progress we've made today, because just in all transparency, we don't think we're done. We still believe we have a long way to go to reach the potential that we have as a company. But this learn-it-all mentality was something that we had to get across to everyone. So we did spend a lot of time on relaunching Microsoft's culture, one of having a growth mindset. But I will tell anyone who's sort of deeply interested in shaping culture in a large organization that you can't just simply print the coffee mugs and the T-shirts and say, growth mindset, culture delivered, ready, set, go. You actually have to live it in every action, every communication, every behavior as a leader that you carry forward and exhibit. So we had to make it real for people. What does having a growth mindset mean? So we have cultural tenets that people could understand. We're gonna obsess over our customers. It's not about us, it's about them, it's about their results. We're gonna reward you for your customers' results, not how you think traditionally our results should be seen. We're gonna act as one Microsoft. At the time, we had 14 different franchisees that frankly, never communicated with one another, so reshaping that. We're going to invest deeply in diversity and inclusion, and I slow down to say all three words because all three are discretely important. It's not just about representation. Representation is hugely important because none of us is as smart as all of us, and harnessing that, critically important. But creating that environment, the inclusive environment, so people can come and stay and grow and thrive and be happy in the work that they do and feel like Microsoft is a place where they can develop a career. All things that, as a leadership team, we had to instill as a platform. And we had to back it up. So, look, I have a $90 billion quota this year, but in my own personal pay plan, meeting or beating that $90 billion quota has the same material financial impact for me as to whether or not I beat or meet or exceed my diversity and inclusion goals for the company. Are we making progress on gender representation? Are we making progress on African American and Black representation? Are we making progress on Hispanic, Latino representation? It's huge for us, and we back it up in our actions. So maybe just a very sort of practical day in the life. As you might imagine, the company that invented the spreadsheet, we kind of have a few metrics that we use to manage our business.
Hey, I used to work there. Watch it.
Right. So like, when I joined the company, literally we would do these reviews where we'd have just about as many people in the room as are in the room right now. Literally, there'd be people with little microphones asking you questions. And look, if you think of the surface area of Microsoft, everything from Xboxes to our cloud platform, Azure, there's a few details in the middle. If there was a red dot next to your name, it was going to be a very long day for you. Our reviews were scheduled for 12 hours for every single country. They could last longer than that. The culture was one of fear.
Yep.
And so an example of growth mindset and turning that on its head now, if there's a green dot next to your name on any one of those line items, first of all, there are fewer line items because it was a little bit like a Rubik's Cube with 3 extra red stickers. You could never solve the problem. If there's a green dot next to your name, you're asked to be the one talking, because the theory is that amongst all of the complexity and the things that we're trying to get done, you've figured it out. So let's please have the people who figured it out teach the people that want to learn. And so even the review model, how we reward people, how we run the business, it has to change. It has to change pervasively, and leadership has to carry the baton.
Yeah. So how do you think about fostering that entrepreneurial leadership within the organization that's so large?
Yeah, really, really key. Because it's this never-ending cycle. Learning, innovation, it's never done, and you can't be complacent. We do a lot of learning circles across all divisions in the company, and one of the things that we do, even at a senior leadership team level, that continues to inspire us is what we call outside-in sessions with our customers. So my boss, our CEO, Satya Nadella, will bring us all together as a senior leadership team every Friday. So I'm getting a hall pass today. I get to play hooky, so thank you for that. Where we'll grind through every aspect of the company. Not from the lens of, hey, wow, great quarter, great new product, but hey, wait a minute, are we reaching our potential? The mission, the bar for the mission statement, empowering every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more high. It's easy to go home at the end of the day feeling like, didn't really get everybody today. And so what we'll do is we'll bring in customers where we lost. They chose someone else for their solutions, and across everything we do, from consumers, across industry, retail, financial services, manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, you name it. And we'll have these sobering sessions about things we could have done better. Could the product have been better? Could my people have shown up better? Could we have been more creative in how we put forward a business plan for a customer to get something done? And we will, in that meeting, make budget decisions, resourcing decisions, and think about how we can be better at everything we do. You have to, in fairness, you have to balance a little bit of that because, again, the morale can be like, wow, has anybody sort of looked at the stock price? Because we're not doing bad.
That's a bad
but you do have to actually say, well, hang on a minute though, that's not the bar.
Right.
It's not the bar. Right. The bar is what are you going to do to field a better solution, field a better team next year, because the competition's not sitting still.
Right.
So you reward the people that are bringing forward innovation and learnings, even if it represents an initial failure point, so that you can learn from it and get better.
Yep. So what's next for you? I mean, how are you thinking about that future and continuing to push this to the next level? Because, I mean, I think you could declare victory.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
Not so much, but I appreciate you saying it.
Your culture isn't letting you, which is important.
One could, and I honestly think that's why not too many companies persist in a $1 trillion valuation in our market. If you kind of look at just the history, it can be a little bit of the kiss of death. You say, well, okay, can the economy really support $1 trillion valuations? And not getting into the stock picking, market making aspects of it, because it's not what I'm good at. But I can say when I look at our potential and what we stand to be able to do for companies, we are just getting started. And maybe I'll give you an example of that. So I just came from London had an offsite with Alan Jobe, the CEO of Unilever, talking about their strategy and their digital potential moving forward. And if we would have had that meeting 6 years ago, or even frankly a couple of years ago, the conversation would have went, kind of like I described earlier, how many PCs can we get you, what can we do for your office and Windows environment, blah, blah, blah. Now it goes a little something like this. Hey, Alan, over the last 6 months, we've worked on digitizing your factories. We've taken your Dove factory in Valinhos, Brazil, and we've put sensors all over it. We've built a digital twin using machine learning and artificial intelligence to actually not just give you better insights about the factory, but actually enable the machine learning model to run all of the parameters in the 4-story, larger than this facility building. And in 12 weeks, in one half of one of your 300 factories, we've saved 3 million euros. And if you do the projection on 300 factories, we'll save Unilever €1 billion. And so digitizing their factory is frankly just one development, but putting the tech back into the hands of the people that run the factory so that instead of running the paper processes at the front lines, digitizing it in their screens so that they understand the outputs of the machine learning model. The work that they do actually goes into reinforcement learning and improving the data sets so that the whole machine gets better. Humans learn from artificial intelligence learns from humans. We drive their supply chain efficiencies. We drive their availability to promise. We connect the entire thing to brand satisfaction, quality controls, distribution, demand, upside. And we're just getting started, right? We're just getting started because we're just getting started, frankly, with Unilever, and they're, frankly, one of the best digital examples of what's happening today. And so if you take that and you multiply it times the, of course, Fortune 500, but the 12,000 enterprise customers I have, the 40,000 corporate customers I have, and the hundreds of thousands of SMB customers we have, and you say, well, wow. That's what the digital future represents. How do I get my people to continue to learn at the pace of the digital revolution so that we can harness that opportunity, once again, for the purpose of living true to the mission statement? How can I make Unilever the best company they can be, not Microsoft? That's the key.
That's a real shift in mindset, though, for your entire organization, which is terrific.
For sure.
So how do you keep yourself on the forefront of learning, personally?
It's a good question. Look, I think for me, it comes down to sort of 3 things. One, staying humble, because you can learn something from everyone you talk to. You can learn something from every situation. And the more that you live true to this notion that you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, and you use all of them in proportion, which I'm not doing a very good job of right now, by the way.
You're not supposed to.
I guess.
Okay.
Keeps you honest.
Yep.
Keeps you honest. The second thing is staying hungry. We took some leap of faith in this whole thing. this idea that we would consider Unilever a partner in IP co-creation 5 years ago would have been just like you'd have gotten laughed out of the room. But if you stay hungry on the business propositions and the co-creation, co-development, partnering scenarios, and don't become complacent in whatever your valuation may be, frankly, who cares? What your valuation is today is immaterial if you're focused on potential. And then the last thing is much to the point that you made earlier, Marla, stay on the forefront of innovation. The company almost died because we stopped innovating. We milked the assets we had. We weren't focused on building what everyone wanted next. We missed the mobile generation. We did silly things to try to catch up instead of, once again, being focused on innovating what customers, what people wanted from us.
Fabulous. Any last words of advice for the corporate entrepreneurs in the room, besides those three amazing things?
Yeah, so I guess the thing I would say, humbly, if I could give you some advice, is that innovation can happen anywhere. Oftentimes people look to Silicon Valley. Oftentimes people look to startups. We're a 40-year-old startup and we're just getting going. I think if you look down the halls of your organizations, your institutions, there's people that want to innovate. No one wants to work on the old project or the legacy body of work. Find that innovation. Find that spirit of entrepreneurship. Harness it, nurture it, feed it. Reward failure, but reward learning from failure and learning faster than failure extremely high. And take bets where your gut tells you to take the bets. Because the market we live in right now is rewarding those quite well, and it won't always. We're in one of those arcs where innovation couldn't be appreciated more.
Great. Last question. How do you do, Nate? Thumbs up for me.
I think it's only because I'm still paying the tuition.
Thank you, Judson.
All right, thanks, Marla. Thank you.